Eyes closed.
Physical health is an important but still not the sufficient prerequisite for a spaceflight by tourist voucher. One has to dispose of an incontestable reputation. Criminals, drug addicts, inversions and perversions inclined persons, and those leading an immoral lifestyle don't let that bug you. But it's still not enough. A tourist should be a cool cat as well. Stress stands for the constant mental picture and various troubles imagined. How can one get rid of it? Our task is to convince all spaceflight participants that they work with reliable equipment and top-class specialists. That's what I'm always telling them. Guys, you're heading to space for pleasure. Guy Laliberté needs no long explanations. Entertaining people first in the streets and then on the circus arena, he became a nice shrink himself long ago. It's a piece of cake for him to find a correct approach to another person, even to his teacher. In the Cosmonauts Training Center, each tourist is examined not only by psychologists. The rest of instructors need to make sure that they deal with an absolutely normal person before the final decision concerning spaceflight admission is made.
Вот, окей. Вы запомните. Дергаться не надо.
Please remember, there is no need to twitch. Smooth moves, that's what counts. No swinging to and fro. Let your thoughts shake, while actions should be to the point and accurate. There you go. It's necessary to provide the psychological compatibility of all crew members. Once Cosmonauts Training Center experts had to reject a candidate for a space tour due to his psychology-related issues. In particular, this happened when we were forced to remove the Japanese spaceflight participant. And he was substituted with gorgeous and divine Anusha, as we used to call her. Ready, launch, 4 units. Anusha is a Russian nickname of Anushe Ansari. This flight turned out to be a great surprise for her. She was initially a member of the backup crew. The decision on her participation was made less than a month before the planned liftoff. How the first liberated woman of East, Anusha Ansari, was let off in space by her husband still remains a mystery to the whole Islamic community. September 18, 2006. These are the quotes from Anusha Ansari's diary. The first female space tourist and the first declaration of love out of space. 5, 4, 3. I'm really flying. 2. I love you, Hamid. 1. A soft lift, and I felt an incredible, overwhelming joy. The last stage of separation was like an abrupt movement. 0 gravity. This magical feeling of freedom makes everyone smile. Giggling, I floated slowly over my lodgement. Earth's fair sex population was literally absorbed with this diary. 30 million readers or even more regularly reviewed online those orbital notes. Anusha managed to mince out words so simple and sincere that her letters excited a lively, genuine interest. Whereas the main reader, who Anusha really dedicated her space notes to, was anxiously waiting for her on Earth.
See her and I could talk to her and see how happy she is. It was much better. But the question is definitely I missed her. And based on what she's been describing, I'm very curious to go up there myself now, yes.
The most amazing what I saw there is the way the universe looks on the night side of Earth. Stars here are just indescribably beautiful. It seems as though someone had scattered diamond dust over the black velvet cloth. Fine words indeed. Yet, common people would hardly head to the orbit and tell us how strikingly our planet looks like from the spacecraft window if it had not been for the Russian president. who personally interfered in the NASA and Roscosmos antagonism in 2001. On April 12, 2001, Vladimir Putin arrived in the Star City. The visit's purpose is to congratulate cosmonauts upon the 40th anniversary of the first human spaceflight. But there was also another goal. The president is expected to support the international space crew, which was involved in the Houston scandal. The president wished to Commander Musabayev, flight engineer Baturin, and space tourist Tito to carry out a successful flight. The spacecraft's launch, with the first tourist aboard, was scheduled for April 28th. On April 17th, the crew was already in Baikonur. Here it is, the historic moment. I believe it's an honor to have a space tourist aboard, as it happens for the first time in history. But one wouldn't let Dennis enjoy the moment's historicity to full extent. NASA would force him to sign a humiliating paper. Thereby, he was obliged to indemnify the state for any possible losses in case if a tiny piece of equipment would be broken down through his fault. Meanwhile, from the High Tribune of the Congress, the very NASA administrator Daniel Goldin would accuse Tito of not being quite a patriot and not loving America. But Tito would not yield to these provocations, simply ignoring Mr. Goldin's angry paroxysms.
Well, we're getting close. We're only about 11 days. It's really exciting.
He had never approached his dream that close before. But NASA would make another attempt to delay the spacecraft's launch with the first space tourist aboard. In space, even the most common things require a proper training and are codenamed in a special way. For example, the WC. According to the onboard technical documents, it's a cesspool cleaning and sanitation device. Besides, all actions are performed in strict accordance with instructions. The first part, when we do number 1. We use it the same way as we did the whole operation. And the second part, when we do number 2.
There's an insert. Yeah.
La Liberté had to learn the sequence of operations by heart. Repetition, repetition, one. Just like in circus, until you perform a number, you are forbidden to leave the arena. It turned out to be easy enough till the final. The lavatory pan works like a vacuum cleaner. In some, the lesson is learned well. Elle is up.
I'm floating, I'm finished. I take down, then I do that again. Push it down there. Open here, take one, close the door.
It might sound strange, but it's the WC matter that would play a significant part in the confrontation of the two main space powers in spring 2001. It happened several days before the first space tourists lift off.
Endeavour, Houston, on aircraft 2-4.
According to the program, the Russian spacecraft that started from Baikonur Cosmodrome was to substitute in orbit the ISS-joined American shuttle. Shuttle Endeavour was thought to vacate the moorage for Soyuz spaceship and head back to Earth. NASA suddenly corrected the program, leaving Endeavour docked to the ISS. Afterwards, NASA explained it on account of computer system malfunctions and asked Moscow to postpone the Russian spacecraft's liftoff for a day later, even though it was clearly impossible. Many experts claim that it was done deliberately. The NASA management ordered not to undock the shuttle from the station, which meant that another spacecraft was not able to link up. To put it bluntly, they didn't let us fly up. Another solution for docking supposed that Soyuz would pass to the second docking unit, only 6 meters aside the Endeavour's tail. In that case, a single inaccurate movement was enough to turn the ISS, the shuttle, and the spaceship itself into a giant mass grave. Under the given circumstances, the Russian chief suggested that Soyuz would spend supplementary 24 hours in automated flight mode. Although, if Endeavour did not undock within a mentioned time lapse, the spacecraft would have to be removed from the orbit and land off nominally. When, out of the blue, as they say, there came a blessing in disguise. Suddenly, a WC broke down aboard the shuttle. God is all-seeing and omniscient. A lavatory pan breakage on the shuttle. One can't fly that long without this device working properly, especially with 6-7 people aboard. All in all, that team had to undock. Soyuz was launched in precisely calculated time on April 28, 2001. Gagarin's traditional «Поехали» rang at 11:37 a.m. Moscow time. As soon as the spacecraft left the ground, Dennis Tito's girlfriend, beautiful Dawn Abraham, fell on her knees and burst into tears. It was like a presentiment. The first space tourist troubles were only about to begin. In general, it's worth being pointed out that the space tourists are lucky to have special women by their side. For example, Charles Simonet's beloved one, American anchorwoman Martha Stewart. In Incorrigible Adventures, the author of books and filmmaker, and in addition, a millionaire. She accompanied Simonet to Baikonur, then visited the Mission Control Center to see her fiancé in the orbit, and even declared her love for him via space communication before a great number of people.
I just want you to know that we all think that you are intrepid, a pioneer, and above all, guess what? You're out of this world.
Plaza, it's really an honor to be here at Post.
Shortly after the spaceflight, 58-year-old Simonet did become engaged, although not to Martha, but to 28-year-old Swedish model Lisa Persdotter, his friend's daughter.
Every single day after that, wanted to meet me, and I said, no. But so we actually we've been friends, and he's been kind of a mentor for me during these years, but it's during the last year that...
If an ordinary billionaire, Simonet never managed to win the beauty's heart, Simonet the cosmonaut succeeded in it quite easily. According to one version, Lisa, charmed by all the tales about sunrises and sunsets seen from the orbit, asked jokingly for a star as a present. Shortly after that, Simonet played a trick. He rushed back to Moscow and literally snatched a space trip from the hands of another tourist, Australian multimillionaire Nick Halleck, by paying $5 million more. The Australian had a rough time and went home with nothing. Whereas Charles, grabbing the wedding ring and the cuddly toy, a seal, made his fiancée a present and headed for the ISS again.
He's happy. That makes me happy.
Simonet became the first space tourist in the Cosmonautics Chronicles who reached the orbit twice. On the landing site, Lisa, the most beautiful girl of Sweden, was waiting for her twice space tourist. She fell in love with Charles, a man twice her age, not because of his fortune. Lisa is not a poor girl herself, since her own father is a millionaire. Honestly, Charles Simonet would hardly ever fly to space again due to Lisa's objection. This ban is a formal condition of their marriage contract, which is not surprising because no wife would stand her husband spending $35 million on a pure entertainment. Perhaps that's why millionaire Guy Laliberté doesn't make haste to stamp his Canadian passport with a marriage mark. Meanwhile, his beloved Claudia has presently a rather strange marital status, either a married woman or a girlfriend. However, it didn't prevent her from bearing her free Guy 2 children. There are 5 kids altogether. So while the father clown is planning to make it for the orbit, Claudia is busy with a whole kindergarten in her hand, though the beauty doesn't mind.
Arrive at space in only 8 minutes is something else. And to know that, the father of my children is in there is quite exciting.
Guy Laliberté is a happy man, as he's finally lucky to have such a devoted life's companion. He's never told that story before, but now, out of the blue, he decided to share it on the eve of his spaceflight.
But what that triggered that moment was the separation with the mother of my first 3 kids. So that was a difficult moment. It was emotional, you know. I wasn't,
Guy just couldn't go on like that. He was ready to do the worst thing. When suddenly, he recalled the custom of islanders.
And a little bit like in the Pacific Island native people, there's, and as you know, they tattoo themselves, and they associate tattooing your body as changing skin like a snake, change skin in order to regenerate his healthy skin. All my emotion of the first 40 years old in my life, I asked her to draw a painting, and then I went and see my friend tattoo artist and showed him the painting and said, I want you to paint that on my back.
I did become literally another person, and it was then that I realized that I desperately needed a new challenge I'd love to experience on my own. The adventure that only 6 Earthlings happen to live through. I've got to perform the best stunt of my life.